A correlation table in analytics, as the name suggests, allows you to check and assess the correlation between a number of funds against one another, and therefore try and understand the level of diversification within the group of funds. Now, how you run one of these on the left hand side, whether you select a basket of funds individually just by adding a load of funds to this active list, or another way of doing this is just simply to add a portfolio. This is a model portfolio, add it into the active list, and then hit the second tick box on the right hand side, and that tells analytics you want to look at every single fund independently of one another, as opposed to just looking at the overall portfolio. If I were to put that into a line chart, for example, I'd get, say, 15 lines as opposed to just one line of the overall portfolio. And on the right hand side, correlation table understandably lives under the tables tab. So tables tab, correlation table. For the most part, you want to run this over 3 years. I want to run that on the current active list, which is anything on the left hand side, and hit generate. And it will load up something a little like this. So it's like a mosaic of different colors. Now, the color coding is quite simple. It's just blue, green, or red. Anything positively correlated, basically anything above 0.7 will be blue. Anything red would be negatively correlated, and that's anything below minus 0.4, and anything in between is low correlated. And if you've got grey NA, it just means the fund hasn't been alive that long. So it hasn't been alive in this case for over 3 years. And what you really want to see is similar to this, is like a sea of green, low correlated assets. Well, that's assuming you want to achieve kind of a low correlated mix of funds. But it's a nice way of visualizing. It's all very good trying to explain to a client that your portfolio is very well diversified and very uncorrelated, but it's another thing to try and prove it. So this is a really nice visual, nice illustration to be able to show a client, well, look, these are the underlying building blocks and funds within my portfolio. This is the relationship between them. And as you can see, there's a lot of low correlation between them that will drive diversification. Now, ultimately, the scale is only between -1 and 1. So anything correlated at 1 is essentially a carbon copy of one another. And the only real differences in performance is probably going to be the charges. So that fund is highly correlated to that fund. So they're pretty much working in tandem to one another. Whereas the floor is -1. So the scale is quite small, -1 to +1. +1 are carbon copies, -1 is there's absolutely no correlation between those assets.